same thing, they can't be more than two in one location. Doesn't matter what they're talking about, it's the impression that they're giving. You know what I'm saying? So the impressions are very, very important. Perception versus perception. You give the perception that three people are meeting, you don't know what they're talking about. So that's why if two of us together and the third one comes in, somebody has to walk away, regardless what the subject matter is. That's the down and dirty of the ground. But you can actually get that online too.
So Jim, I'll do. I will go through the presentation on the locations. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I got it together.
Okay.
Wasn't sure if I had some, but.
You got 5 minutes. Everybody's doing it.
So you're sure about the subject matter? It's not relevant?
It's a perception. The thing about it is you gotta be specific. Say like I'm standing 200 yards away. And I see you, Dawn, and Ron talking. I know that all three of you members of the commission, but I don't know what you're talking about. It's an intentional violation.
But it's not, because we could be talking about golf.
Technically it is, and the lawyer will tell you two's okay, more than two's not.
We can't be three together.
I think that's wrong. I know about the two, but that's if we're discussing specifics about.
But now you're looking at perception. Perception, you know how perception is going this time.
Yeah. For people, what they do,
You're supposed to be innocent before
Yeah.
the United States of America.
Hot off the presses, they're warm.
Americans poll, and we're polled. Want to see Trump in office.
But who do you know who they poll?
I-
Did they poll Democrats, Republicans? Exactly.
A good mathematician can make numbers right there.
Yeah, you don't even have to be a mathematician, you can do there. Lean to one
And
side or the
nowadays,
other.
you don't believe anything.
I'm sorry?
Nowadays, do you really believe anything?
You can if you
It's on the
substantiate it.
damn internet.
I believe he believes his wife. Okay.
Don't try to make up with her now. Don't try to make up with her now. Yeah,
How many years has gone by for that one done?
You're Ubering home. This is trouble, I didn't.
According to this millennium.
I didn't have much time.
I'm not talking about finance.
Ugly sister. I sent you our.
I did, but I didn't get a chance to read it. They kind of did that.
Yeah, but my point is
No,
that
I just think it's.
this is hanging on to our ideas. It's no going anywhere. You know that.
But it's like, they were banned from the beginning. This has all been vetted, there's been a vendetta machine since the get-go. You were baked like that. He's dropped in his.
I think that's.
This is just a history of something.
Oh, it's just the same cover.
No,
No, but I mean, it's the same.
Same cover.
So I didn't. It's like, how did you get So you heard me?
Is this the same as the one that Sean was in the packet, that your analysis rather than?
I don't know what Sean has done, that's part of the concern that I have.
Whatever.
She's asking about our documentation.
Yes, it looks
Yep.
like your project, but
Is
it's
there-
different.
Is there more
Yeah.
than that? Should she be looking at this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's your item.
But your analysis
And I-
is different than his.
So what I could do, you did the Second City tracks, right? The same analysis based on.
Good evening, folks.
That's what I went through. No, not the map, the table.
Good evening,
Yeah.
folks. We're gonna start tonight's planning commission meeting. At this
I have
time,
it
would
ready
you
if you
please
want.
either turn off or turn to vibrate your cell phones. And for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation, Mr. Tui, would you, oh no, I'm sorry.
Pastor here. Pastor Smith.
Pastor Smith, would you give the invocation? Thank you, sir. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, thank you for the privilege that you give us to gather together with the citizens that are assembled here, with our planning commissioners, to do important business that affects our entire community. Would you please give wisdom? Would you protect those that are on our streets tonight, protecting us? We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Madam Secretary, would you please roll call us?
Commissioner Trumbull,
Here.
Commissioner Macedonia,
Here.
Commissioner Hogan,
Here.
Commissioner Conroy. Here. Chair Creighton.
Here. All right, can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Planning Secretary, any reports or late communications?
We do have one late communication. Mr. Tuig has sent us an email with 3 attachments.
Thank you.
You can set my name correct. Yeah, well
You want me to send this around?
Beg pardon?
You want me to send this around? Oh, you have.
They all have it. It's on all our laptops.
Okay.
And if anybody from the public would like to view it, it's on the front table. At this time, we will open it up to public business from the floor. Members of the public are welcome to address the planning commission only on items not on the agenda tonight. Each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak. If anybody would like to say anything, please step forward.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Hello, and welcome, Commissioner Conroy, with us.
Connor,
Conroy.
like,
I know that.
like Sean.
Your name
I was actually just sort of thinking about the San Francisco Niners going off to Miami, so I apologize. I'd rather be in Miami tonight. But however, and by the way, the Oregon football team also won the Rose Bowl, just in case you didn't know. On matters that are not on the agenda tonight, but of concern to this planning commission, is the government code. 54952.3 or something C. With respect to the Brown Act and open meeting laws, and with respect to viewpoints that might be different than yours, or might be different than planning, and certainly might be different than some members of the public, but might also be important to understand viewpoints that agree with you on many occasions, and some occasions may disagree with planning, may disagree with the chairman, may disagree with the commissioner, one of you, but may agree with most of what you're saying. And that's when, under the Brown Act, under open meeting laws, it's imperative that you are prepared to have an open mind and to be thoughtful in your analysis. Not to simply push forward an agenda that is not given consideration to all things, including discussion when omissions are noted, when planning or other persons might omit something from the meeting. That is also important to take notice and to be aware of. And so tonight I make mention to you that in the process of planning for a period of months, it's my opinion that many important analysis have been omitted from your package. Not that we haven't spoke about it, but perhaps your ability to view things, to see things, illustrations perhaps, even visuals that could be more helpful to you to identify an analysis, I think have been missing, and I regret that. A lot of work has gone into our analysis on many things at the Planning Commission, and on many things we support your decisions. I don't support the exclusion of tracks. I don't support the exclusion of analysis, and I certainly cannot support the exclusion of the economic consequence analysis from your package. And so I say that so that together we can look at things in the future at the Planning Commission and look at all analysis that might come before you. And I do appreciate your time very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All right, hearing none. Tonight we have on the agenda one public hearing, one discussion item, and then one new business item. The public hearing item is a conditional use permit 19-01 for Carlos Cepeda, business name Grandma's Stash. Public hearing is now open. Staff?
They had pulled their application for this project at the current time.
This hearing's closed. All right, our discussion item for this evening is the identification of tiny home tracks within the city of California City. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, Council, or Commissioners, this presentation is going to be about potential tracks in this part of the community of California City. As you can see, there are 9 tracks that are highlighted on this currently. I'll go through each of those. This is a map of the tracks around the city. They're basically around the perimeter, all except for the west or southwest portion of the built city. This is a map of where the zoning is over on top of where the tracks are. If you notice, this is the M1 or cannabis zone that's allowing manufacturing and cannabis businesses. Anything yellow, the light yellow is single family, the brown is multifamily, and the shades of pink and red are commercial. As well as, this is where the high school is. Any blue sites are government sites. Here's City Hall, here's the middle school. So just for reference. We'll start again with the first tract, which is 2898, and I'm just going to kind of go through these quickly since I gave this overview before. This is just south of the part of the airport. It is important to note that this tract is SDI. There's currently no infrastructure in this tract, but SDI means it is eligible for funds that the city has. We just have to go through a judge to get them, but those funds will then provide streets, water, sidewalks, and infrastructure for all these lots within this area. So that's why it's going forward as one of the recommendations. This is a photo of the property. This lot is just south of where we did the city-initiated zone change, where we changed it from commercial to manufacturing. There's a strip of commercial directly in front of there, and due to the fact that there are existing homes in the north, west, southwest, and northeast quadrants, we are only recommending if you choose this track to go forward in the northeast quarter of 2528. So the view from it, these are those existing homes in the tract. This tract is also near the airport. It is directly north of, or near the high school. We do have infrastructure in this tract. There's water in there, as well as sewer that I believe runs down either Minderoo or Lindbergh. And sorry, this tract also has water. Another important point to note is we have to have feedback of landowners in this area saying that they would be interested in building tiny homes in this tract. We've had a couple come forward and say they do have plans to directly build tiny homes if approved. This is a kind of average street in there. It has that, what you call desert mix as pavement. We would recommend repaving, but it's not necessary. This is the tract that was added based on recommendation from Planning Commission last time. You want to take a look at this. This is also an SDI tract, which means it's eligible for that funding set aside for infrastructure, road paving, and sidewalks. It's important to note is also right next to the high school up here, a little more directly in front of it. This, again, doesn't have any current infrastructure, but it is eligible. Additionally, I want to point out, I did include this, but this is currently zoned commercial. So this little drainage area could be the buffer, or we could go ahead and include it if we want to rezone this whole thing to residential as well. Something to consider. This is the view of this tract. It's very wide open, very disturbed. This little spot over here is the high school. This is the legends again, 6388. Again, this is in the process of being turned over to the City of California City Housing Department. We should own these properties and will be in control of this area. If tiny homes are allowed in this, it doesn't mean they will be built. It means they can be considered an option by the city for the houses in there. So they already have infrastructure, sewer, water, curbs, and gutter, as well as fairly new pavement. This is the current mobile home park. We're recommending this because you can basically, if you want to keep it on wheels, we recommend allowing wheeled tiny homes on this since they are basically mobile homes. You can kind of just plug it in here. Not to mention the city does own a lot of this property, and it's been identified as a area that can be redeveloped fairly easily and is in need of it. The kind of picture of one of the empty lots where you could potentially either back a trailer in or build it. It's kind of up to you. Here's the southwest portion. These are a lot less desirable, but they do have an infrastructure in here. 223. You can see they have water out there.
It's a sanctuary though, isn't it?
I'm not technically, not yet. And 2630 as well. All these three all have very similar characteristics, including infrastructure. This area has that one slab out there that was being built, but they just couldn't get some specific
That's the one that burnt
infrastructure
down.
out there.
It burnt down.
Burnt down?
Yeah.
Oh,
No power. Shouldn't be long.
oh, power, that's right. They have water, but they do have power
They
issues.
walked away from it, caught on fire, and the fire department just watched it burn down.
Oh, wow, okay. So this is why these are being considered for tiny homes, is their potential to be self-sufficient from power, and then if they are able to get water hookups, those would be allowed. And this is 2404. And then, this is the last one. 2530, this is a very long section. There's actually quite a few lots in here. If you have any questions about, if you just choose one, I do have calculations for mailouts. We were informed by the attorney as well as the city clerk that if it's over 1,000 lots, we do not have to do mailouts. We can just instead add out a newspaper, a minimum of 1/8 of a full page, and do general noticing as well. And that is sufficient because if it's over 1,000, it's considered it affects the whole city. However, if we are under 1,000, I have prices on how much these would cost. And this one actually has quite a bit of lots in here because it's so long.
It's about what, 2 miles long?
You're right. Yeah, each one. Actually,
No,
it's a
it's a
mile.
mile.
1 mile.
Yeah.
So each intersection.
Sean?
Yep.
Now, is 2530, is there some flood zone areas in there?
No, the flood zone is actually just south of Sequoia. Sequoia is, if you look at the street, it's almost like a dike
Because
for the flooding.
when I went out, I couldn't find any Sequoia Street, so I thought I was somewhere in the neighborhood, but there's some areas, yeah. But like I
Yeah,
said, there were
kinda
some
get
areas
it.
that looked like they were flood areas.
Yeah, so if you go out there, it just looks like a giant, a very large dike, and that, the road is on top of that.
Right. And that's why I said I seen some
Yeah.
low-lying areas I was concerned about.
It is low lying, but because of that, it's, should be protected, but yes, this whole area is fairly low lying out there. And then this is the view of that area. And also to note that this small quarter right here is also commercial. So we are looking for direction on what tracks to include, or just to move forward on drafting the resolution that will be forwarded to council. This is a breakdown of all the tracks, as well as their recommendations from the planning department and their infrastructure listing. So with that, the staff is done with the presentation.
All right, thank you. For the public, tonight is a discussion item only. We will not be taking any action. We may direct staff for some further review or with some further instructions, but tonight is a discussion only. At this time, we're going to open it up to commissioner questions, and then we'll open it up to the public, and then the commissioners will talk, and round two will start. All right, Commissioner Trumbull, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Commissioner Macedonia?
Specifically, the only one we're gonna be looking at is this one here that says excellent.
Well, we're looking at them all. I mean,
Well,
they're all
I mean-
part of the discussion.
The one with the, yeah, they're all part of the discussion, but the one with the greatest potential is 2898, is that correct?
There will be, that's one of the things that, based on public comment and our discussion, we may or may not come up with something tonight to hang our hats on.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at the recommendation for RTH district, yeah, there's several that are high and a few that are medium.
So the mobile home park is the best spot for what?
Based on our analysis, because it is basically ready to back one in there, that's why we're ranking it high. And that it has all the infrastructure already ready to go.
That's all, thank you.
Commissioner Logan?
I have a couple questions. One, with discussion on the legends I had, it's still in talks with, it's part of the housing department, and my thing was to push that off till I wanted to talk to Mr. Taldo to find out what her plans are with the housing and how that's gonna change. It is an excellent place, but I would like to find if they're gonna expand their their senior housing over there, and what her plans, if she has something that she's moving forward with in that area. I'd like to know that before we would consider that area. And 3151, the mobile home park, I have a hard problem okaying that on the simple fact that area needs to be cleaned up. I'm not sure if you wouldn't waste your money doing anything with that property. I can't imagine somebody would attract to put any kind of new home in that area. So for me, I'd like to see the city move forward with doing something to upgrade that system before we decide that. I find it a hard time to try to start a new community when you're already starting in a troubled area to begin with. With the amount of area that we have around here, I don't think we need to do that. The area is 24 in that area. If we're gonna allow them to be self-sufficient until they get services, I see that area as pretty decent growth till the services get to them. I like 2898, and I like 2812. But I'd like to know, with the council, how much do we want to change at the time? How much area do we want to put forward for the tiny home areas. Cause it all takes money to put these letters out, get feedback from individuals, and it also 2967 is a nice area. But how much do they want us to move forward with, I'd like to know. I mean, it all costs money, do we want 2, 3 areas? How much housing do we wanna commit to small homes?
And
Other than that.
if we go over 1,000, we don't have to pay for all those mailouts, we can just do the,
But that's just considering one track, I mean, you could put that on one track, right?
no, that's, so
Overall,
say you pick all of them,
say we
that
want,
would be about $10,000 to mail out all of those.
There's
But-
no mailing required.
Exactly,
But-
so we would need, so then we could just take out an ad in the newspaper.
so if we combined all of them,
Right.
we could forego
Correct.
having to mail all that out.
And that's even the case if you pick, I think even, 4 or 5 or so. I can provide you with the number of parcels in each, but roughly the largest parcel has 723, or sorry, the largest tract has 723 parcels. The smallest one, which is the Legend, has 101. And then also, since you mentioned you were interested in having council's input, one thing that has been brought up is possibly a joint meeting on this with the council, so that's an option.
Okay,
Might save some time.
Commissioner Connery?
I'm good.
I have has there been a pilot program started to find out about the senior housing situation? Because there's a shortage and there is a long waiting list for our seniors, also for our veterans in the community. Is that possible to do?
Yeah, I'd have to talk to Amy and see if they have anything going right now,
Right.
and if there's anything in the pipe work, but I know that's a good
She's interested.
market, yeah. And that's, tiny homes would fit that market as well.
Especially in the Legends area, because
Right.
they've been waiting for a very long time on waiting list. 3151 is the trailer park, and that is a blight on the community as it is. There's several problems and issues over in that, there's several issues over in that area now, there's an ongoing problem. I'm only speaking from another stance, the criminal stance of it. Over here by the school, I can't see putting this in around the schooling area, because we don't have the infrastructure as it is, the shopping needs or anything. Who's gonna fill up all these tiny homes? Are we bringing people in from other cities to live in these tiny homes? Are we offering them up into the community?
Yeah, and these are already parceled out, so they already have single owners. This is basically just giving them the option to build those tiny homes if they like, or sell them to somebody who would like to build them.
And I would like to see, I would like to also talk to Amy Hurtado and find out, because that's a big concern in our community, is our seniors and our veterans.
Okay.
That they have quality housing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll get you her contact.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. What criteria is staff using on the proximity to streets determination? Because there seems to be a disparity between staff's evaluation and Mr. Twoweeks. You'll get your chance.
So are you asking how we
What
rank these from high to low?
What criteria are you using that says where proximity to streets is either poor, excellent, fair, or good?
Proximity, it might be a typo, it should say utilities. So basically, if they have.
No, you have proximity to utilities, but you have also proximity to major streets. What criteria,
Well, so
what
Norelli,
distance are you using? Are you using a specific distance, or
no, I believe that's just if they have.
if it's on the perimeter of the track, then it should be good all the way around, correct? Okay. So if you have either a collector or an arterial all the way around, that should be considered good, at least.
Correct, yeah, and that might go back to, that should have gone back to CEQA, so basically, I guess, because the ADUs and the tiny homes, if you put them on still have the same density, that shouldn't really matter. But, yeah, if you're activating the lots, then you might create more traffic, which would be important to have a major street on it.
Okay, but my point is, almost every one of these tracks has, at least on 2 to 3 sides, they have either a collector or an arterial road. So that should be considered at a minimum good all the way around. Okay. And then on 2987,
Well, actually, it's not true, because if you look at that in
I
the
said on
south,
almost everyone.
right, yeah.
Caveated it, okay, yeah, down in the southeast, we don't have much.
They would be large if people
Don't have
were
much
over
what?
there.
As far as
They're
actual
planned for
arterial or
4-lane
collector
roads.
roads.
Yeah,
I see
Carson and
there's some.
Sequoia are both planned for 4-lane roads.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
talking, my next question is, in 2987, I'm sorry, 2967, on the southeast portion, you say that's commercial? Why do you even have to recommend that as a buffer? It's residential. A buffer to what?
Sorry, what was the?
Okay, so you said on 2967,
Mhm.
basically the southeast portion
Mhm.
is commercial, so you could use that as a buffer.
Correct, yeah.
Buffer for what?
No, I just mentioned that if we wanted to rezone it as part of the
Tiny.
tract to allow tiny homes, that would change from commercial to residential. Or you could just shave that off and only change the part that's currently residential and leave the commercial part in there.
Right,
The entire tract has both commercial and residential.
exactly, okay. And then, let me see if I can make clarification, to address some of your questions. Tonight, we will be, discussing which tracks. We won't make a determination, in my estimation only, until city council addresses the resolution that we sent forward. Then we will try, if they come back with a favorable, vote, we will lock in tracks at that point. I mean, a joint meeting between us and council is welcome. We did it before and it came out very well. If this is the only subject, that's great, but if not, then we won't act on specific tracks until council makes a determination on the resolution that we sent forward. So just to make a clarification on what you were asking, if that makes any sense to anybody.
Yeah, you mean my numbers thing, how much they wanna dictate to. this
Yeah, which
group.
tracks, if they wanna do it, then we'll put forth a recommendation by resolution on which tracks we recommend.
And at that time, could we have alternatives to what we see up there with the city council? Cause there's some areas that I still, other than what we have listed up there, wouldn't mind seeing as a tiny home area. Would that be a time to discuss it with them or what?
We, tonight would be the time, if you have other tracks that you would like to see in there, tonight would be the time to bring it up.
Or if you want to omit any.
Beg pardon?
If you would like to omit any as a council, you can,
Yeah, but like I said, tonight's a discussion, we're not gonna take any formal action, so, all right, are there any other questions from commissioners? All right, okay, public, your turn. 3 minutes.
Truly, my analysis will not be done in 3 minutes, but I'll give it a whirl. With respect to the comments from Commissioner Hogan, that you'd be starting a new community, I would like you to keep in mind, these are existing residential tracts. They are not new communities. The density will not be an issue. The arterials exist. I'll draw your attention to those. The roads are already engineered. This is not a future subdivision. This already exists. All we're simply doing is reducing the footprint. By reducing the footprint, we have the opportunity to market and attract minimalists that will use a smaller power load demand with solar and battery backups, which is the new trend. Because of the battery backups are so sufficient now that you don't need to spend a lot of money and you can power up a home here. Additionally, your economic policy, quite frankly, is flawed. You're looking at infill. We don't need infill. This is not a social policy. This is an economic policy. The economic policies you have, this is very important, over 100 tracts of land that have no power. And because you have 100 tracts of land, it's very important that the Planning Commission think about other identifiable uses. That's your responsibility. Because we brought this forward, we've actually spent years analyzing the locations that would be most suitable. I'll draw your attention to those now. With the map on the large screen, please. 2223 is the highest recommendation because there are 3 arterials: Forest, Sequoia, Desert Butte, and it connects directly to Cal City Boulevard through Country Club Drive and Arnold Palmer. It is the highest recommendation, not the lowest. Any person, any planner, any individual that comes along and says it's a low priority doesn't know anything about planning, or median roads, arterial roads, or access, or anything. With respect to 2404, it's immediately adjoining Desert Butte Boulevard. Same arterials: Sequoia, Forest, immediate access through Arnold Palmer and Country Club Drive to Cal City Boulevard, which takes us to Edwards. This is why we recommend it as the highest proximity. With respect to 2528, this is surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of conditional permits, multiple multi-million-dollar cannabis facilities in development. That having nearby workers is critically important. And so having that essential subdivision or neighborhood nearest cannabis is essential. There is power to that area as noted. However, if you want to omit 3/4 of that, there's another 3/4 of a tract that will never, ever, 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 ever have any other homes because there's no power. 2530, I'm going to ask you to remove. 2530 is along Sequoia Boulevard at the southern end of town. When we mapped that, we thought it was a concentric tract all together clustered. It's not. It has an arm that sticks way out. And for that reason, I don't recommend it. It's not a concentric tract. I'd like you to remove that. 2530 is also known as a military munitions site where they drop stuff there in tract 2530. And so as a result, I don't recommend that we include that in our tiny home district. Additionally, 2812, as noted by planning, I do agree. It's the highest priority. The infrastructure is there, arterial roads are there, it's in the cannabis zone. 2898, fine, I don't care. I really don't care. It's an SDI tract. It might allow you to prove that SDI can be utilized. I know there are builders interested in 2898 because it is on the western portion of town and closest to cannabis. I don't care. 3150, eliminate. You don't need a tiny home district in a mobile home park that already exists. It's a planned unit development. Whoever comes up with this stuff ought to have their head examined. 6388, of course, I think you know Amy wants this for tiny homes. Again, it's unnecessary. You don't need the designation. You're wasting time. We are not branding and marketing mobile home parks that are blighted and decrepit. That's not what we're doing to attract people to California City. With respect to 2967, I recommend you omit it. There's too many hundreds and hundreds of nearby neighborhoods that are of quality and it's not conforming. With respect to the recommendations that you have before you, proximity to major streets, I'm not going to take your time and belabor how incompetent this analysis is. But I would tell you, as I do in many, many assessment appeal hearings, if the analysis is incompetent, throw it all out. Throw it all out. You need new analysis that actually really looks at the proximity to streets. The reasons for the economic incentives that we're creating this is so that we can put users into those tracts that were already submitted to your commission, including the second community. Anyone who omitted the second community knows nothing about California City. We have infrastructure there. We have folks that are paying general taxes, folks that are paying parcel taxes. At Boraxville Park, it's a close proximity to the tracts that we recommended, 3061, 3062, 3198. They need to be included. It needs to be in your analysis. I don't know why it's not in your analysis. It's been omitted. I'll close. The consequences of tiny homes, including all of them in your district, except the ones that we've omitted. We've already omitted 100 tracts. We've already omitted 40,000 properties. We've already omitted all of that. If you're going to give us tiny home district tracts, if you omit things, those tracts, nothing will change. Blight will perpetuate in every single tract. Property owners will be plagued with eroding infrastructure, not getting any better, no plan, no vision, no hope. You are punishing property owners with punishing parcel taxes and unacceptable default rates. I submit to you tonight, I need 3 votes, or 4 votes, or 5 votes to include our analysis in your recommendation to the City Council. 35 years, tens of thousands of needs analysis with property owners, tax advocacy for over 10 years to help the city, saving taxpayers $40 million in unnecessary bonds, and re-establishing the housing industry here is far too important for us to use in competent analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Christy Munt, I've been coming here to Planning Commission for 3 years now on this issue, tiny homes. I do believe it is the future of our, not only our city, but our nation. We have to be environmentally friendly and aware. As DJ said, why limit this? We need to open this up to as many of those that you deem accessible. We don't need it to be just one place in town. If we restrict it to one area, we're cutting off our nose to spite our face. We need this. There's nothing going to happen to this land if we don't do it for off-the-grid living, tiny living, and environmentally friendly living. Because right now, we're not getting any more electricity, we're not getting any more gas lines, and it's not going to improve any. So I like, as I've said before, 2223, 2404, and 2630. I'm out there every day. I walk my dogs out that area every day. And there's nothing out there. As I said, there's one slab. It was a house that was built, almost ready to live in, and it burnt down and they walked away from it after 2008 in the mess. I love to see the Legends expand because we do need that senior living, and most seniors would prefer a tiny house to not have to worry about taking care of it. 2898, perfect, because you're going to get SDI money for that. You're also going to get SDI money from for the seniors, for Senior Legends, and 2967. And if we do this in multiple areas, we're not going to have to spend the tens of thousands of dollars to put this in every individual lot owner's mail. We can do it with a public notice in the paper, which is going to cost us a whole lot less. So we can save them the city money, and we can open this up to the future of California. California and the nation is going tiny. This is a big movement. There are a lot of people that own these tiny homes that were on wheels that can be put on permanent foundations that want to find a place to put their home. And they don't have it right now in California. There's not a lot of cities in the state that are allowing this. And if we need to move forward. We are now in the third decade of the 21st century, and we are still living in the 20th century. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
If I could just add one thing.
Sure.
The cost for this, it will affect over 1,000 lots if you pick more than one. So 2 or more will be over 1,000.
Chair, Commissioners, Karen Macedonio, resident. I have a couple of questions and thoughts. The fact that we have 2 very different analyses, one from our staff, one from whatever word he wants to call himself. I would like to see how that analysis was done. I'd like to see in writing what makes it excellent, what makes it fair, what makes it good, so that I can look at it and make a choice.
Half of that you're gonna have to ask the gentleman that spoke before.
And I will, because he specifically said he's already vetted 1,000 lots and admitted over 40,000 parcels. So I'd like to know what that means as we focus down on these specific ones. But one of the things he said is if we get to 2898, is to prove if we can get SDI money for this. And that's a very real thing in my mind, because we've got $89 million sitting in
I think
SDI
it's
funds.
closer to 93.
Okay, as of November 30th, 2019, 89 million. It's growing.
Yes.
I have a lot of questions about that, but we also don't know what challenges we will run up against.
The basics of SDI can be found in the municipal code.
And I looked at it, and I've got some
Part
questions.
Title IX.
And I've got some questions, such as who is the SDI advisory committee? How are they
Question.
appointed?
I don't think it exists anymore.
It's in the municipal code.
I know.
If it's in the
I agree.
municipal
I
code,
agree.
then that's where the guidance is.
Yeah,
Any rate,
I spoke with the mayor on that, and he said he can give us some more info.
so these are questions, because if we wanna tap that money, we need to begin that process. But that's one leg of this stool while we're looking at housing for the cannabis industry. I'm not sure how we accomplish that if we're talking about the fact that it has to be a year lease or a year rental, and cannabis is migratory work, which would be a few weeks, so that's something to be discussed. And I love the idea of a joint meeting between council and planning commission, because this is so important to us, that if we have a joint meeting where the public's involved, I think it would really be beneficial for collective wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't believe we can condition anything on the rentals, so that's all up to the property owner.
So, yeah.
Ilona Eubank resident. I'm very, very excited that you are considering tiny homes. Approximately 4 or 5 years ago, I was going to buy one south of us. Unfortunately, it was in an HOA community. There are a number of us who are buying tiny homes, putting them on foundations all over the country, but don't want to be limited by that sort of community. Tiny homes, in its broadest sense, are in Oregon, Minnesota, Detroit, Arizona, Northern California, and the first master plan tiny home community is about 11 miles from San Diego. I think this is a fantastic idea for our community, as long as we don't overburden the people who may be interested in buying these with rules and regulations and turning it into a very, very defined setting. I agree with the others that have spoken that this is somewhat a wave of the future. There will always be people that want larger homes, but my generation is seeking to downsize. Our youngest generation can afford to buy homes. This is a way for renters to build equity and then move to larger homes. So I hope whatever you decide, where you decide, that you would be very open and free to what this can mean to our community. And the old concept of all tiny homes being movable is not the case. They're prefab, they're on-site built. And as far as, I think it would be the parcel 3151, if I'm correct, whatever parcel that is over there that had the
trailer
mobile
park.
home community on it, that may be an excellent place to have those people who want to live in just a small site. But please don't limit the sites, because many of us do want a smaller home, but we want the area around us for our children or grandchildren or animals or whatever. And a lot of people that move out here want that rural setting, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Roger Millian, resident. I think that it won't hurt to say yes to as many tracts for tiny home communities, but it will hurt to say no or reduce the number of tracts for tiny homes. I'm not a landowner, I don't have any property there, but I do see the benefit of having as many viable tracts for tiny homes there that will help the city grow, and I think that's very important. If we say no to it and reduce it, you're actually stopping the growth of the city. And it's time that we all get together and do something to actually make the city grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, at this time, oh, I'm sorry.
Silver Bar resident. I would like to see a study or maybe a study from another city who has brought tiny homes into their communities, see what kind of effect they've had. As far as, property values, all the positives, all the negatives. what would we, once it's applied, what we'd be up against, what we'd be dealing with, or what the positives are. I'd like to see a proven model, as it were, not just analysis, you know, it's a little bit different when you've got the proven model in front of you. And I would hold my judgment until I saw such a thing. So if the planning or council or whoever could come up with something like that prior to a joint meeting, I think it'd be very helpful in informing people, because, you know, informed decisions are the best kind.
Thank you.
Hello, Mariah Dotson, Community Advocate. So I love what you said about the informed decision. 3 years ago, we provided a Big West, and we collectively came together and created a tiny home study from other communities. So if that's something that we could re-provide and then maybe re-collaborate on and really get that done.
Yeah, if you wanna forward that to me,
For sure.
just email it.
I definitely would recommend moving forth with nominating multiple tracks so we do not bottleneck the tiny homes. You guys have a big decision here and it's super, super exciting, but as you know, this is the future and this community is in complete support of your decision. So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, in your analysis, did you have areas that were projected in your paper that you put together?
Yes, it was more of a study of other communities who had created tiny home zones. But I can forward that to Sean and Sean
Yeah,
get
that'd
it.
be great, because we did our own research and we couldn't find that many that have actually approved it, so yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? All right, commissioners, comments, further questions? Commissioner Trumbull.
I think the last meeting we had with, between the council and the planning commission was very, very good. I think we should have another joint session with the city council on this matter.
That it?
That's-
Thank you, sir.
Okay, here we go. I think my mic's on. Oh, there it is, yeah. I think that if we go for more than the one or two parcels, I think it's a big mistake. It's gonna be a big struggle to get tiny homes built. People are not really clamoring to get into tiny homes. I know that there are people in the audience that feel they are, but I haven't seen one built in California City yet.
You can't.
We can.
Yeah, hold on.
Wait a minute.
He's speaking, you please don't. You'll get a second shot at
Okay,
it.
so we can't build one until it's zoned for that, is that what you're saying? Okay, so I think possibly we're gonna be able to, we've already kind of figured that one of these overlays should be for tiny homes. And then we'll see how quickly it gets filled up with tiny homes. But you can't have a tiny home for your backyard and a tiny home over here and one over there, and we're gonna have 10 tiny homes on 10 overlay parcels. That makes no sense. It's gonna create exactly what we already have in Cal City, which is houses with lots, vacant lots next to them, and no infill. And the idea is to have infill. It'll become cheaper if we have tiny homes in one specific area. It'll be a lot cheaper. You can have the power off the grid, on the grid, whatever. And there are a couple of SDI overlays that do have a certain amount of power, and the funds would be there. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Holden.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, one question I wanted to ask, TJ, what was the ones, the lots that you mentioned out at, 20, Bill, all that,
Second community.
second community? I didn't catch them lots of numbers.
Sean, would you bring up our analysis, please?
You were moving pretty quick for me.
Which one?
It's an unreasonable expectation to try to provide analysis when it's already been kind of jacked up. Analysis comparison revision 1, please.
It's loading.
Thank you.
There was three.
I'll draw your attention back to the original overlay district proposal. We listed 11 tracks. We identified those that were SDI. There were 4, 2898, 3061, 3062, 3198. We also provided the cover of the track maps, brought the track maps here early so that you could take a look at the proximity to arterials, so that you could take a look at utility characteristics and other property characteristics that make these exquisite locations for tiny homes. This is our analysis here to answer your question specifically. If you go to the top, please, we can look at the banner. Will show you exactly what we've tabled. We moved SDI over the column. That's the only thing we've done in terms of changing the table, because it's irrelevant. What is relevant is the fact that we're looking at the economic consequence of putting residential housing that will attract people to our community in districts that otherwise have no utilities and no ability to attract workers to our community. Because we can't attract workers, we'll never have industry. So we have to solve the problem of the infrastructure. We have to solve the problem of attracting industry here to have a community. Any more limitation, prohibition, and general poo-pooing of these land use policies is a serious problem to the sustainability of our community. Therefore, track 2223, if you look at it, we've identified that it has water, there's no sewer, you have the proximity to major streets. In fact,
Mr. Tui, he only asked for 3 tracks.
I'm going to get
South-
there. You can see clearly in our analysis that you actually have arterial highways. Continuing in our analysis, you can see in each track that you have arterials to every single track that we've identified. If you scroll down, to go back up a fraction, please, at the bottom. 3061, again, excellent arterial frontage. Second community, nearest Boraxville Park. Highly recommended. The next track, 3062, power, water, and sewer. Excellent arterial frontage. Second community, nearest Boraxville Park. 3198, power, water, and sewer along 20 Mule Team Parkway. Excellent arterial frontage. Happens to be an SDI tract as the previous 2. Second community nearest Boraxville Park.
Them are only the 3 that I was asking you. You had mentioned it and I didn't catch the numbers on it. That's all I was interested while
I understand, but I'm also trying to identify for you why these were selected. They were selected for bringing economic benefits to those tracts that otherwise will never have any. Because you can't get a residential loan in those tracts unless the power exists. That's why we're identifying tracts to bring economic value to this community, all 11 tracts. Second community, there was some idea that maybe the police would not want to serve or the fire would not want to serve the second community. I remind you, there's a general tax. It is revenue neutral. When you have a residential home, it is revenue neutral to provide general services to that home. And so the second community is highly recommended. We've also picked those sites closest to Boraxville Park. There might be some additional support available for public service at Boraxville Park. So that's why we selected those tracks.
Commissioner Hogan, you have any more questions?
No, well, my point was,
Comments.
I just wanted the 3 points. But my thing was that I was open to, for myself, a half a dozen places that I would consider on this table here, as far as moving forward with. How everybody else feels, and the new ones that were brought forward. And I have some spots that I thought would be considered, that I would have liked to see. But until we move forward and get more information on the ones that I've seen today that I was interested in, but more than one. I'm definitely an advocate for multiple. I'd like to see myself over the 1,000 mark. I'd like to see the growth there. Picking the best couple, I'm not sure what the council, we have to work in conjunction with other people, with the city, heads of the city here, what they are trying to achieve. But I would consider multiple places if it's just picking the best spots that we can. And there's a few areas where I know some people here like, but I am not interested in putting where we have homes. I will not take people's property values that they have now, that they pay $200,000-300,000 homes, and put a home that's $100,000. I will not destroy people's homes values that people here consider as seniors that live on what that value that home stays at. I don't want to take, we have property. We don't need to destroy people's home values. We don't need to put it amongst other homes. So if whoever's pushing, if you want to push in the housing areas, you're going to get a lot of pushback here. Because I do not want to destroy anybody's home values when we have hundreds of thousands of acres. There's no reason. And some of it, where we're getting into second community for me, I want to push the envelope where we can get some growth to get our utilities. We can't continue to tie in just because the road stops here, that we're gonna only tie into this neighborhood. I wanna see us expand it, so somebody, the more people we can get, like off the grid, if you get a nice development there, it's gonna generate the money to put in the infrastructure between point A and point B. So if you're thinking about submitting places that you'd like, take that into consideration. Don't just tie in just because we have an outlet there. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Connery? No comments?
I have a couple of comments real quick. As far as the number of tracks, there's two schools of thought going around. Some are, would like to see a minimalization of the number of tracks and do a quote-unquote pilot project to see if anything would be built. As one school of thought. I'm not subscribing to any school of thought. Let me put forth that right now. The other one is to open it up to multiple tracks. I have my own, and the thing about infill, as long as, if I'm sitting anywhere on this dais or anywhere in that audience, I will emphatically oppose infill of tiny homes where there are conventional size homes. I will emphatically oppose it for reasons that Commissioner Hogan stated. I'm not gonna let my property value drop for something that is, I'm not gonna say it's substandard, but it does not meet the requirements in my eyes. Anyway, infill all aside. I personally would like to see everything stay right now, can always expand, in the main community. I'm not opposed, like I said, I'm not opposed to multiple tracks, but if we cut that off on 2530, that makes it viable. If you leave that arm off, and you could go with it that way. I don't know how many tracks or how many lots are in that part of the track on that arm, but you don't need to calculate that right now. I'm just throwing it out there. If a tract, I probably would have to say that 2528 would not be in the best interest, even if you segregated that that northeast quadrant. My own personal opinion about Legends is that it is viable, specifically for the seniors. But again, we need to see what the housing authority is going to do. My own personal opinion on the mobile home park is that it is viable. If it looks like a slum right now, I mean, that's unfortunate, but the city is trying to improve some of that. But we did in the resolution allow tiny homes on wheels, and that would be a good place for it. If they're put down and secured just like code requires any mobile home, I see no reason not to. Pull the tires, skirt it, and put it up on piers, there's no reason not to.
Permanent foundation.
So tonight, we're gonna look at, if you have thoughts about another tract, bring it forward tonight so that we can put it on the table. And be specific, if you know what the tract number is, or if you can identify it, put it on there. We're not gonna make a decision, everything's on the table tonight, this is more like a brainstorming session than it is a decision-making session. We won't make a decision, like I said earlier, until council moves on the resolution and ordinance that we set up, that we pushed forward last meeting. So with that, I'm gonna open it up for second comments. We're only gonna one more round, and then we're gonna end this, for tonight anyway.
Just a real quick question, push them out again. On the legends, not the legends, mobile home park,
Yes.
do those people own those lots? Or do
Most-
they pay space rent?
Most, I believe they do own.
Again, that,
One of our commissioners lives there, so.
they do own? Okay, thank you. Because I agree with you. I think if the tiny homes came in there and were put on permanent foundations the same way the mobile homes are, it could improve that area because people will come in and actually have pride in ownership again. So, and that's, I hope would happen, that we would do that. I also do not want to see infill, but we have 203 square miles. There's a lot of land that we can go out to, especially if.
You know what I'm talking about with infill, right?
Yes,
The main area of the community.
exactly, right next to my house or somebody else's house. Yes, I agree. We need to just, the more we can, more information, the better. And I think the more availability to people to be able to, and if we get people started building tiny homes here, there will be a manufacturer that will wanna come and help build those. Because a lot of tiny homes are built off-site, trucked on, and plopped onto the foundation. So that could be another industry that we could look forward to. So city needs industry, and it needs residents to work in those industries. Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else second shot? Or some first shot, second time around?
Mary Trumbull, resident. Good evening. I unfortunately live in 3150 or 51, whatever you want to call it, and there are people that own their own property. We do. There's several people that don't, and they have landlords that don't keep the areas up at all. And then
That's
a lot of those
unfortunate.
people, typical, so I know the finances are hard and stuff, and not everybody knows how to live in a neighborhood, and so, a lot of people move to areas that are cheaper rents and such. So, so there are people that own their properties and try to do well with them, and then there's the people that are renting or leasing or whatever, and are at the mercy of the landlords, so. That's all I wanted to say, so.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else, second time around?
Karen Macedonia. When we get down to the point of the commission choosing which tracks you're gonna do, be it 1 or 100 or whatever it is, I would really like to see a spreadsheet that has all of the criteria. Is it an arterial road? Does it have water? Does it have power? Not just words, but a literal Excel spreadsheet with X's on it, so that we knew why we were choosing the specific ones, so that God willing that these are really successful, and later we see where we go next. Thank you.
Good point, thank you.
Second call, thank you. With respect to some of the comments about the selection of tracks, I just want to be very clear. We've asked to remove 2530. Additionally, at some point, planning seemed to remove 2461. Those were two in our original analysis. We're not going to argue 2461. It is to the east of 2404.
Oh.
It's that little tiny section there.
Excuse me, you said east of 2404?
Not a fan of 2967 to be specific. I think 2967 has potential for residential. I'm just not a fan for tiny homes. The reason being it's too close to existing quality neighborhoods. We want to have a conforming use. With respect to all others, 2223, 2404, 2630, 2812, 2898, 3061, 3062, 3198, I'm asking for 3, 4, or 5 votes to recommend those areas and include them in the public notice. Each of those mentioned has the highest recommendation from a bona fide land developer in this community with 35 experience, having walked every single tract, having photographed the tracts, photographing arterial roads, much of which has been submitted or linked to planning so they can access those photographs of the arterial roads, identifying the tracts that have water, need sewer, need power, so that your planning commission and council can have before you all of the information already in your hands, available to make the best recommendation and the best decision. We provided this analysis for approximately 3 years. It's been available to you, it's been available to the planning department, and it's available tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Commissioners, since this is a discussion and no decision we made, Commissioner Hogan, you mentioned some additional tracks. Would you like to identify them for staff?
Okay, I had a question though to Sean. Okay, on 3151, the area where we would, if we allowed tiny homes on wheels, that wouldn't have to change the designation since it's mobile home park, would it? Would it have to be designated like, it would just still be a mobile home park? The designation don't change to like tiny homes to include tiny homes?
There is a minimum size
Yeah, we'd have to look into that.
on mobile homes, so yeah, we would probably have to amend that area somehow.
Well,
I think
that,
there's a minimum size to double wide.
right, and so it's basically, it would be allowing, if you include that track, you would be allowing the tiny homes on wheels just to be inserted into that zone.
Right, but I'm saying like where the other areas were designating the areas, the new zone change are the arch, tiny home area, forgot RT. But, so we wouldn't have to change it to that, to
Matt said
allow
you wouldn't have
for
to change it.
tiny homes.
Yeah.
He testified here, you wouldn't have to change it, it's a PUD. He said that in his first statements.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to change it, but we can look into that further as well.
I would suggest printing the code out.
So, okay.
Yeah, there is a mobile home park in the code, in the city code, so I can give that to you.
So you could put tiny homes in there, it wouldn't have to be
Yeah.
rezoned or.
You just need to amend.
Right, we would amend the
Only if
zoning
it's
text, similar
what
to,
is allowed as a mobile home. Right,
Well, technically, it's an RV. It has to be built to RV standards.
well,
So it can't be more than 8.5 feet wide. Can't be over 13.5 feet tall. It's on wheels. There are certain regulations it has to be. The length is not that critical. It can be pretty much any length you want it.
Right.
But it would be permanent, correct?
Well, as permanent as they want it to be, as the owner would want it to be.
It gets a building permit as a permanent.
Correct. I mean, they have to
Right, yeah.
go by the building codes, obviously, yeah.
similar to a mobile home.
like
And if
anchor.
they went up and leaves at some point, they can take it with them, you know?
I believe Matt's testimony was it's allowed in the PUD. I recall that from the first meeting.
You're probably, yeah.
And, I didn't have a number, so I'm gonna have a hard time including, because I didn't have it's something I was looking at today and I didn't get all the info. But with Mr. Two-Way, I wouldn't mind adding your 3 spots over there by Bill Hill, the 30, 61, 62, and the 3198 to be in discussion when we get with, the city council, if we could get a joint meeting with them and include these areas. Because, like I said, for me, that moves me up to 8 spots that I would like. But it's up for discussion. And for me, you know, the legends, right now, I prefer to leave it alone till we find out a little more information on the direction that is. And, but other than that, and the other spot,
Sorry, what were those 3 track numbers again? Just so I get it right.
3061, 3062, 3198, was that it? And I don't know the area, the numbers, but I was looking at an area over there in Yerba where there is that mobile home park that's around there.
That's an HOA.
The mobile home park's an HOA,
He's talking about,
but
this-
the property around it.
yeah, so this is the mobile home park up there that's actually, it's actually run by the state, so we don't have much purview over that. But the area around it, that's not, sectioned off yet, hasn't been subdivided, might be a good opportunity for a tiny home park.
Cause it,
That would be master planned. So if we wanted to zone that, so I don't know if you can see, it's right here where there's no plots.
and it starts at, let's see, that's,
Yeah, there might be
it's
some
on
good
camera,
opportunities.
just from almost like Poppy
I have to
to,
look. I'm not sure. I think she owns the other side.
Poppy to Lindbergh.
yeah, Meadows.
Well, I can go and look at property.
Poppy to Lindbergh exclusion have a whole way.
That whole section is pretty nice. I thought it was a nice area. Like I said, I didn't get, just doing an overlook, I didn't get that much information.
That tract is 2727 if you want to write it down.
And, like I said, I hadn't done no homework on it, but around the park where they have utilities, they have all the amenities that you would need to start a community, and it wouldn't be, and it's an upgrade. We would be doing upgrades to that system without hurting the property values from anybody else. So without too much fanfare there, I would wanted to maybe put that on the agenda if we can get a little more info. Like I said, I did not have all the info on, you know, what's zoned and what's not. But there's an area I liked. I have to admit, if the zoning's there for us to allow it to go forward somewhere there, to me, that seems like a pretty nice prime candidate. That's it for me.
I'm sorry, so I got 3061, 3062, and then what was the last?
3198.
3198, okay.
But this is only, for, you know, part of the discussion when we get with the city council. We're not sure what their direction is. I mean, you know, this could be all for naught if they're gonna shut down and they only want one planned community.
Yeah, we could do the joint meeting,
Yeah,
but.
that's what I would say.
This is
These
your
discussions,
recommendation.
these are, all these are for discussion with, you know, our people. But anyway, all right, that's good for me. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to make a request of staff for further inclusion in the next discussion? Seeing none? I actually, the only thing I would recommend is that staff compile all the comments here and include it in the summary for us when we bring this for discussion again. I don't see this coming up for discussion until there's an action by council on the resolution. And then I agree that if we have a joint meeting with council at that point, if they have said yes to the ordinance, we can sit down with them and find out what they're like. Now, keep in mind that this commission is an advisory body to the council. We don't make policy, we simply recommend. So we will work under their direction, so we're not doing something that's just gonna get kicked back. So with that, I think we can call this discussion concluded for tonight, unless anybody else has anything to say.
Well, my mother-in-law here, she doesn't speak a lot of English, but she's actually requesting something because, there was a tree that was outside of her home, which destroyed her.
I'm sorry, she's doing what?
There was a tree that was planted there when she bought the property,
Uh-huh.
and it destroyed her fence, and the tree has since been removed, but, the fence is still destroyed.
This is the wrong place to be. I'm
Right.
sorry to say that, but, next Tuesday
Right.
at, City Council, that's the place to bring
Is
it up.
here or
It's saying here, Tuesday night, 6 o'clock.
Tuesday, so next
Yeah.
Tuesday?
Same time, same place next.
Same time, same place next week.
Okay, you got it.
Public comment.
Public comments, which is at the end of the meeting. We do them at the beginning of the meeting. They do public comments at the end.
Okay.
And they can address that there. The city manager will be there as long as, the public works, she left. The public works, interim director should be there as well, and
So-
city council can direct. They
Okay,
can help you out.
Maybe I can get him a card, get him in touch.
Beg pardon?
Maybe I can get him in touch with Joe, possibly.
Sorry you had to sit through all this.
no, it's okay, let me, thank you.
Okay.
Try to get in touch with someone.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
All this, that. It happens.
Entertaining.
It does happen. It does happen.
Entertaining people.
They know there's a meeting, they just don't know which one it is sometimes. Okay, so we're good on that. Anybody else up here have anything to say on that? Okay, the next item on the agenda is is a discussion and selection by the commission for a vice chair. Let me read the Muni Code portion of this. Section 2-2.106. This is addressing when the chair and vice chair are officially selected. At its first meeting of May in each even-numbered year, each advisory body shall elect one of its members as chair and one of its members as vice chair. If the chair is absent or unable to act, the vice chair shall conduct the meeting and exercise the powers of the chair. The reason why my seat as chair is not being selected tonight is because I was selected back, and it's not technically up until the end of April next year. So, and with Commissioner Elms taking a job with the city, the vice chair position is now open, so we will temporarily fill that with the new vice chair until we reselect in May both the chair and the vice chair. And by the way, there's nothing in the Muni Code that says that anybody who has served prior can't continue to serve or serve again. So, at this time, members of the commission, who would you nominate for vice chair? All right, I'll start. I nominate Richard.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on, guys, y'all have voices. All right, we'll take a vote on Richard. All in favor of Richard being vice chair, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I guess you're it.
Yes, so.
All right.
A lot of enthusiasm.
Commissioner Macedonio is now vice chair. Congratulations, sir. There was an item H,
No
staff
pictures?
items
No
and
photos?
comments. Do you want a brief on that, Sean? Or do you want to just, a list of everything that you've got going on right now? Do you want a brief on that, or just want to have there as informational?
Yeah, it's just information.
Okay, all right.
Received.
All right, at this time, we have commissioner items and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for planning commissioners to present information, announcements, and items that have come to their attention. Short staff responses may be appropriate. The planning commission will take no formal action. The planning commissioner may request to calendar an item for consideration at a future meeting or refer an item to staff. Commissioner Trumbull, do you have anything to bring up tonight?
No, I don't, except for 3151, 15 houses, mobile homes in that section.
and majority of them are rentals. And there's one condemned house. And the renters don't seem to keep their property up. We have in the mobile home park, total mobile home park is only 5 or 6 people that have rentals and they rent it out all over. The house across the street from me has been condemned because of something inside the house. We have, sometimes at night, 15 cars in the cul-de-sac. Sitting on the street, which makes it very hard for the, next morning for the trash collectors to pick up the trash. And would not recommend 3151.
Anything else, sir?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner excuse me, you go next to last, hang on. You don't get a turn yet. Commissioner Connery? Nothing? Commissioner Hogan?
No, I'm good.
All right, Vice Chair Macedonio?
Thank you.
Okay, I took a trip over to this, one cannabis thing. Of course, it's not gonna be on discussion tonight, it's for next month, I believe, right? But what I found,
Oh, we don't know when.
Yeah,
Before you-
okay.
They
We have
will.
no idea.
but, I wanted to talk about it because, first of all, without the GPS, I couldn't have found that there's no identifying marks on the building. That's one issue, but I think the bigger issue, and my commissioner next to me brought it up to me earlier, is that the place, the whole area is a mess there, and I don't know why, as commission, we can't get code enforcement to go in there and do something. It really makes a blight on the city, you know, I mean, everybody wants to build tiny homes, and I think that's great, okay, if that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna do it. But we gotta clean the city up, and areas like that are trash heaps. And you know, now, Mr. Trumbull is saying that he's got issues over where he lives, and so what do? Do we go to the police? Do we ask them to intercede and go in there and start, you know, rousting people out of there that are causing problems? Because he's gotta live there, he and his wife have to live there. And I don't think they wanna be going out there with a baseball bat and, you know, chasing people out of the area, but it's up to the police, and we have to get the police on board with that. So basically, that's just kind of a complaint. That's all
Code
I'm
enforcement.
Yeah, I'll mention it to both code enforcement and police. We do have.
Well, I can give you some history on that. Last year, actually, it was quite a while ago, they were trying to bring forth warrants to demolish 17 mobile homes. Only one was permitted because they didn't process their paperwork correctly. So it got kind of messed up, and that's actually with the fire department, not the police department. So it's fire department code enforcement. And basically a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff wasn't addressed properly. They weren't addressing biohazard waste. They weren't addressing the age of the facilities, which includes asbestos-containing materials, possible lead-based paint materials. All that stuff has to be cleaned up properly, otherwise you're facing serious fines. So I don't know if code enforcement is gonna bring that forward again, but that's whose shoulder it's on. It's still an open item as far as I can tell. And by the way, I don't have anything for tonight, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.